Here we are. We're at coding night for absolute beginners. You're here again with Startup Show San Diego, and we've got a whole crew here.
Hey.
We just finished, so the room was pretty full with lots of people coding. So, how about introduce yourself and?
Yeah, I'm Noah.
I'm Benjamin.
I'm Israel.
Gloria. Hi.
And we're all students at Origin Code Academy, which meets in this building on 101 West Broadway, up on the 11th floor. And it's a coding boot camp where you learn how to become a full-stack web developer in just 12 weeks.
Okay, so you weren't a developer not so long ago.
Yeah, just the beginning of this year, probably like around January, I started learning some stuff on my own and signed up for the boot camp, and everything I know now has just been accumulated throughout the past few weeks and months.
And so you had an idea to put together a meetup for people who have absolutely no experience of coding.
Yeah.
Take us back to that first time when you had your first conversation, when the idea popped in your head, and you turned to somebody and said, "Hey, I've got an idea." What was that conversation like?
Yeah, the conversation was actually with one of the founding members of Origin Code Academy, Jeff Winkler. I was sitting down with him, and I was just thinking about how I can get the most out of the meetup, or the most out of the coding boot camp, and I wanted to put myself on a better level. And also, we were just talking about how I struggled quite a bit when I was learning how to code, and there's nobody really there to step at first. And we both came up together with the idea, sort of maybe starting a meetup. I have access to this building, and he encouraged it highly and said that he could help as much as possible, as much as I ask him to, but to really take it on as more of a person did as well. And yeah, I wanted to start the meetup with the intention of getting new programmers in an environment.
So I did 2 decades of military, and we always had a saying, you don't really know it till you learn it, do it, then teach it.
Yeah.
So until you've taught it, you don't really have it.
Yeah.
So that used to be the test. So you're kind of doing that.
Yeah, it is. It drills in some extra information now that you have to go through and entirely understand it so that you can teach it as well.
All right. So here's another question for you. So putting this together, you didn't just like book a room and go. I assume there was a couple things you had to do to get this going besides start. So what was the most difficult challenge to overcome to get this going, and how did you overcome it?
I think the challenge was coming up with what we were going to teach. At first we thought we were going to go a little bit more advanced level, and we got sort of persuaded to keep it as basic as possible, which was good because it allowed us to say, okay, well, we're expecting these type of people. We labeled the meetup group for beginners, absolute beginners. So
no kidding,
we
absolute beginners.
Yeah, we were hoping to get people that were at that level, that may not feel comfortable enough to join something at a higher level, and I think we were pretty successful in getting that. And
how do you think you overcame that? Was it just coordinating among yourselves, getting lots of feedback? How did you overcome getting the right level of content to teach?
For the content, we just kept it as basic and bare bones as we could. For the first one, we said, let's make them just install, the basic program, and let's let them do the very bare bone minimum HTML, which is like.
So the idea was somebody could write some code and get a page up with stuff on it, with basic navigation. So Gloria, how do you think they did? Did the night go like you think it should have gone?
Yeah, I actually think it went pretty well, because like when you're taking a class, you're always concerned about not knowing enough, and then you have so many people that are just like, teach me, and just like you're kind of amazed at how much you have learned. And so to be able to like teach that to everybody and to be able to answer questions, it kind of just reaffirms that you've learned, that you're able to teach, and that you've progressed so much in like 7 weeks.
So best moment of the night for you, best moment of the night for the students. What do you think?
Me personally, I love being able to help everybody, because like it's like my favorite part, just to be able to like go up to someone's code and be like, yo, I think you could do that better if you did it tweaked it a little that way. I know they can like all kind of relate. I do that to them all the time.
That's true.
Yeah, so that was my favorite part. For them, I guess like I wish I had someone who could have taught me all of this instead of like having to sign up like for like a 12-week intense course. Someone who would have just been like, hey, I'm willing to teach you HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Just come to my course. Just dedicate like maybe an hour a week and practice on your own time. I wish someone had done that for me, and I'm glad I was able to do that for them.
All right, let's talk a little about the future with Israel here. So, first of all, how often are you going to do these courses?
We're going to be doing them bi-weekly to try to get more people to come.
That means every other week.
Every other week.
That's
yes.
always confusing. When
That's
says,
true.
that's
Every
twice
other
a
week,
week.
yes.
Or, yeah.
Every other
and
week.
change when you go biannually, bisexually.
Yeah.
Nobody knows. So it's every other week.
Every other week will be.
And so, how does somebody find their way into this course if they want to
a
participate?
good way is through Meetup.com. There is actually an Origin Code Academy Meetup page that you could follow, and then we will be posting all of our meetups there.
So go to meetup.com, type in
Meetup.com,
Origin, and it
Code
should take you
Academy,
there.
and just make sure you follow them, and all of our next future meetups will be on there, posted on there. For beginners, and we'll also be having, we have a Facebook page called Coding for Absolute Beginners. So if you search that on Facebook, you'll be able to find us, keep track of all meetups that we're going to be having in the future.
All right. Well, I'll have to go find that from the Startup Show San Diego page and like that too now that I know it's there. So now you have the most difficult question of the night.
All right.
But it's kind of the whole crew, so I can let anybody chime in. But you kind of have the future question. So going in the future, so let's say you do this for a year, every other week.
Every other week.
You're doing it, and now you're sitting around at happy hour, and somebody says, that's a pretty cool thing you did. What do you think happened over the last year that you're most proud of? What would you say? What do you think you're going to say?
I would say the most proud thing that we would be about is getting people more engaged, getting to break that like fear between initializing some programming and just to not be afraid to start programming, because it's very intimidating once someone looks at some code and they're like, oh my god, how am I ever supposed to learn that? And I think just breaking that little chain of not knowing anything and to knowing something and be able to initialize people being more curious about it, wanting to learn more. I think that would be the best. Just getting more people involved with programming.
Yeah, just to add to that, just be proud of being there and getting them past the hardest part of it, which is getting started. And from there, it's not too hard to self-teach, but getting that first little bit started, that base building block, that cornerstone is a little tricky, and it's cool to be a part of that.
Cool. Any final words here as we get the...
Maybe after a year, teaching some people and then knowing those people that we taught and seeing them in the workplace and them being our constituents out there and knowing that we helped somebody change their life by starting a new career.
Well, good luck.
Again, this is Eric Westrich, Startup Show San Diego. If you want to learn to code for free, even if you're an absolute beginner, meetup.com, look in Origin, or you can go to Facebook, Coding for Absolute Beginners. And thanks for hanging with us. See you later.